I wish we could have stayed there a day longer. We had so much fucking bacon, didn't we, honestly?
Thank you very much for joining us for an episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, is the bacon lover himself, Andy Donaldson.
Hello.
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film. We dive into some of the history of cinema and figure out whether or not the film still holds up. Andy.
Yeah?
We'll get to this in a bit, but for the very last time, as one more round, what have we been watching?
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. So for those of you who are interested, we'll address the whole last time thing at the end of this episode. But for now, Ex Machina. Andy, what is Ex Machina about?
Okay, so let me put it this way. You have a guy who owns Blue something, the biggest thing in the world. So imagine the owner of Google.
Yep, it's basically what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, the owner of Google invites someone round who thinks he's won the lottery. That person comes round and it turns out he's essentially doing a Turing test. A Turing test is how you tell AI. It's on about like you pass a certain set of questions. There's all these bots at the moment doing Turing tests and they claim to have passed it, but they actually speak about the Turing test in this film and like how it needs to be better. But point is that he's there to do this Turing test. There's a robot who's actually female, and slowly over time he develops feelings for her, she develops feelings for him. And it kind of like, it's a psychological thriller, isn't it? So it kind of like, where does this film go? Because you don't know who to trust. You have the perspective of, majority of the time you go through the perspective of Domhnall Gleeson. I always thought it was Dominic Gleeson, it's not Domhnall Gleeson.
Yeah, it's like Domhnall Gleeson.
Domhnall Gleeson and Domhnall Gleeson, right? So you go through his perspective, he's the guest. And, God, it's nice to watch this again, man.
I'm like, we didn't actually plan this, but last week, for anybody who didn't watch, we went and did Blade Runner, which was like amazing, wonderful, but thematically, it's about very similar things.
Very much so.
So we kind of didn't plan it, but it's a nice follow-on. So how do you feel about it?
I really didn't like it. I thoroughly liked it. I remember the first time I watched it, I've always got a thing for, I know you like, what is an indie film? I've always got a thing for indie films, and not mass Hollywood sort of thing. And even though this has like, you got Oscar Isaac, you've got Domhnall Gleeson, what's the name of the actress? Because she's actually the new Tomb Raider.
Lara Croft.
Yeah, Alicia Vikander. Yep. Alicia.
Alicia? How's it spelled?
Miss Vikander. Alicia.
You carry on.
Anyway, so you got a good cast in this film. The production is incredible. The screenplay, the story, and everything like that. What you don't have is the over Hollywoodness of it.
Yes.
And the special effects are absolutely amazing. I know we're going straight to the production, sorry, about what I like about it. The special effects are amazing, but they're not overdone. You have a story that's through and through, it's amazing, and it makes you question, again, much like Blade Runner, what defines humanity. For example, the Turing test, they actually go on and says, the Turing test alone doesn't necessarily work. The Turing test needs to be more evolved to take into account different factors.
Yep.
And that's exactly what this film does. It goes beyond the Turing test. It says, you have a robot who can pretend. Oscar Isaac's character, I forget his name. He words it amazingly. He can. It's almost like faking being human. But then what if? And then he goes one step. There's a third option.
Yep.
What if it's the robot's deceiving you?
Yep.
Which is you find out what happens.
Yeah. Because what if a robot is capable of these emotions? Or might be like aware of them and be able to like use those emotions and use the way it understands humans make emotions and like manipulate people through that. Film is directed by a guy called Alex Garland.
In his debut.
His debut, but not his debut in the film world.
He wrote, didn't he?
He did. Correct me if I'm wrong. He wrote the novel of The Beach.
Yep.
And then also did the screenplay adaptation for Danny Boyle.
He did 28 Days Later, which was I was surprised
20 Days Later, and Sunshine.
Did he do Sunshine?
Did Sunshine.
I like this guy.
But this is the first film he's ever written and directed.
Dread as well, actually.
Dread.
Which is a fantastic film.
Yeah.
And Never Let Me Go, which I wouldn't mind revisiting another time.
Never seen it.
It's, again, kind of indie film. It's good. It's one of these kind of morally ones, again, like this. It's like, it's good. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, go on, sorry.
So for first-time director, this is like mind-blowingly brilliant. He's got a real eye for like how to use the frame, a real eye for like color, a real eye for like telling stories. He's obviously very interested in telling stories that reflect on humanity in some ways. And with Ex Machina, I think the film as a whole, if I had to give like a blanket opinion on it, it's great. I think one of the best things about this is that the cast is phenomenal across the board. But when I say phenomenal across the board, there's like 3 roles, which is like Oscar Isaac, Domhnall Gleeson, and Lara Croft.
Vikander, yeah.
Lara Croft, please.
Okay, Lara Croft. You do have some by Sonoya Mizuno.
Yes, who plays, but she doesn't get any lines or anything.
She doesn't get lines, but her facial expressions, I like that. I like how she's in the background. She reminds me of one of those background characters that has a lot more to play.
Yeah.
And you'll see how it's been directed and see how like the slow head movements when certain things happen. But sorry, go on anyway.
And Domhnall Gleeson knocks out the park. As like the main character, your protagonist, the one who kind of falling through his whole thing, knocks out the park. You've then got Oscar Isaac, who's like one of my favourite actors at the moment.
He's just nailing everything.
Every single thing he does, absolutely nails it.
It's even do you know what makes me laugh as well? I can't believe Oscar Isaac is the villain in X-Men 3.
Spoilers.
Cast?
Yeah, no, it's clearly. I'm just taking them in.
Oh, right, sorry, okay. I fucking panicked there.
But not X-Men 3, X-Men Apocalypse, because X-Men 3 would be like the original.
Yeah, like the new ones.
And
he's Oscar Isaac's doing amazing.
He's amazing. And then you've got Lara Croft, who also amazing, given that she has very limited range in what she's able to use in the film. But because when you say that, because she's got the whole like robotic thing going on, like she's got the whole like see-through body parts.
It's motion capture, isn't it?
It's motion capture. Oh, I guess her face is still the actual footage they captured. Irregardless, actually, probably of any film I've ever seen, the effects are seamless. It's genuinely amazing how well they've done that whole body thing.
For someone like you to say that, because how much not against CGI.
I hate CGI.
But that's CGI. If you want a best example of CGI done well, incredibly well, should I say? Ex Machina.
Yeah, it's like amazing, and it's not because CGI. I've always said works best when it's like in the background a little bit, or it's enhancing certain things. Yeah. This is like one of your main characters right in your face for like a good part of the film.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
Do you know what's funny? What's on the thing of casting? The roles were reversed in Star Wars in terms of antagonist and protagonist. Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaac, Poe Dameron, and General Hux. Okay,
hang on. But now you're getting into a problem space, which is one of the problems I have with the film. Where you draw the line between who's the protagonist and antagonist.
How it's supposed to look as a protagonist and antagonist.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd agree. How it's supposed to look, absolutely.
It does morally leave you quite ambiguous, much like Blade Runner. Who was this? You know, what defines replicant in Blade Runner, human? With this, who's in the wrong, who's in the right? If you look through this film, Oscar Isaac's character, Nath, is a dick. He's up his own ass dick, and he just wants to have fun. But at the same time, he can't deny his intelligence, the way he goes about stuff, and the way he's, at the end, that incredible scene at the end where he's the one that says, that third part where she's manipulating you, and he's like, look, you know, I did put you in for a test, but this is why, this kind of things happen, it's incredible it's happened.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Domhnall Gleeson, he kind of almost like sees in his face, he's like, oh, especially at the end where he puts his passcode on the computer and shuts everything down, you can see that intelligence barrier between them both. And you can see how his emotions have got the better of him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got the main one, which is Ava.
Let's call her Ava. Or let's call her Miss Croft.
Okay, you got Croft. Now you get Ava, who is, she plays us all.
Yes. So, the film looks, right, I've got hesitation, and I'll explain where that hesitation comes from. The film is this wholly kind of unique, in a lot of ways, British independent film.
Okay, I've got something to go on, yeah.
Which is awesome. Amazing cast. Even the visual effects are awesome. It's shot beautifully. So I should love this film. And
really?
I don't.
Really?
I like this film. I don't love it.
Okay. Okay.
And I think part of it comes down to what you were just talking about there. So the idea that Oscar Isaac's character is a dick is how the film plays it. I don't know if he is.
He's seen as a dick. He's seen as up his own ass dick, and he just wants to chill out.
But he also put the work in.
Yeah.
Like, so I've seen this film before.
Yeah.
And I came out feeling the same sort of way. So I went back into it going, look, I'm going to use a second chance, and I'm going to see if I can figure out where it went wrong for me. I think I figured out exactly where it goes wrong for me. It's when Donald Gleason's character is uncovering all the horror of the other robots being destroyed, and he's got this look on his face about how can this monster do it, and the music is telling us this guy's a bad guy. That's how science works. If you want to get to building an AI, it's not going to work the first time round. You're going to have to have some sort of attempts which don't go the whole way, and you're going to have to hit the reset button. And and then you've got the whole he thinks it's creepy that he's building himself sex robots. Is it that bad? If they don't have consciousness, because clearly his whatever she's called, the one who hangs around, we're not supposed to
Kyoko.
know. Yeah, we're not supposed to know she's a robot at first, which everyone, as soon as she walks into the room for the first time, is like, she's a robot. So when clearly she isn't as developed as Croft.
I think she's been, if it's a word, deprogrammed.
Yeah. So, although she just stabbed him at the end.
Yeah,
I've got moral issues now. Because her stabbing him at the end means that she hasn't been enjoying, she's been actively not enjoying the stuff that he's been putting her through. Yeah, I'm back on board.
You say about that's how science works.
Mm.
We've never ever had this kind of thing in science before. I know it's kind of obvious. We've never had to be put in a situation where we have to think about the morality of destroying a robot because the P is so human. So I think it's hard to say this is the first time we would experience something like this.
True, but he understood it more than anyone else. We're assuming that Ava genuinely has a consciousness. He is the closest person to knowing if she has a consciousness or not.
I don't think she does. Fully.
Well, that's fair.
I think the definition of AI, and he explains it actually, he puts it on not necessarily on a plate, but he does put it out there. He programmed her to escape, yeah? Through any means. He programmed her, and he programmed the experiment specifically for Donald Gleason's character. So the whole thing's entirely programmed, and it's just a set of logics through whatever way possible to replicate emotion, or even in his case, understand emotion and use it deceptively. All she's doing is reaching a goal.
That's a good point. He did say he programmed her to do that, didn't he? He had programmed her to, that was her goal during the test.
Leaves when she's at the crossroads, so what happens after that? Where is she going to go? So I don't think she's the full representation of AI. She just passed the test, and his test, which is escape. You see that earlier with another character, Kyoko. She's wanting to leave, she's banging the door.
Yep.
Different ways to actually leave. They must know that they can't physically leave, so they have to use it through manipulation.
Yeah.
First, just before we move on ahead, I just want to talk, how do you define a British film? Because we had this problem with Scott Pilgrim, and I go, what kind of film is this?
I called it a British film for a couple of reasons.
He's British.
So you've got your main character's played by a British actor.
Not him, I meant the director, sorry.
And then, yes, that's the other
Alex
one,
Garland.
is because the director is also British.
Is that what kind of defines?
I think the cinematographer is British.
Okay.
I'll double check that.
The music is British. I'd like to go on to what I think is the best thing about this film.
Ben Salisbury and Jeff Barrow. Go on.
The music in this film, for me, makes it. It is a psychological thrill. And you wouldn't have a psychological thriller without some exceptional soundtrack supporting it. The use of drones in this film is next level.
Flying drones.
The use of drones is amazing. It's amazing what you can do with a good synthesizer and just a range of not effects, not stuff, but use it in such an emotional way. And it's weird using synthesizer and emotion in the same conversation. But he does do it. Synthesizers do recreate sounds. What better way than Blade Runner, where the synth was doing the whole noir thing.
Again, it's just the perfect match for something that's about robotics and about AI.
And yet, if you see past those drones, they're so atmospheric. The highs of the film, you've got these lovely chorusy R's like this, and everything's that you feel elated by the music. When it goes dark, when it goes red, you have these amazing boom that just takes all the sound out the air, and you're left in this isolated. You feel isolated because he's in the room, and you have these drones that kind of like flicker, like that. In amongst this, you do have, especially towards the end, you have that lovely xylophone at the end, which it just like kind of ends the film perfectly, knowing that she's free. If she's towards the end, she's seen as being free, or getting our potential protagonist is free. No, let's put some xylophone to make you feel happy. There's a couple of guitar tracks as well. It adds to the piece and almost sincerity is the wrong word to use, serenity that the outside area has. So this is another thing I'd like to point out. Whilst the music really helps the film, especially in the high points, you have this incredible contrast of really clean, minimalistic, robotic area, and the outside world where it's all glass to the. He lives in like somewhere like fucking amazing, like New Zealand or something. Yeah. And I feel like when their music is on its highs, it really, really helps capture that. Again, it's weird using that because it synthesizes, but it almost feels like airy and natural, yeah? And something you might get like, tell you what it might sound, this is a really cool device called an Aeolian Harp. An Aeolian Harp is some strings and you use the wind to resonate the strings and it's captured on an amplifier and it really creates some nice resonant kind of like harmonics. Anyway, so it almost feels like, it's the best, for me, it's like a really good example of natural music sort of thing. Anyway, and then you have the drones, which really help signify all the when the red lights go out and it like goes boom like that for me it's just like it just shows that horrible like isolated electronic. You then go back into the robotic world. Yes, the minimalism is still there, but I think it's fantastic, and I am struggling to get my words out because I'm that baffled by how good it is. The people who did it,
it's beautiful.
Like you said, Jeff Barrow and Ben Salisbury. One of them, I think it's Jeff Barrow, is Portishead. So have you heard of Portishead?
I have not.
I'll just double check when this comes through. Portishead are a British band. I believe they're around the Bristol area. I could be wrong. I always associate them weirdly with Massive Attack. So I used to listen to a lot of Massive Attack back in the day. So Jeff Barrow is the instrumentalist for Portishead, supposedly, contra my phone. And it's amazing. Again, another great example. If we look at someone like Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, who's doing the music for Social Network. Again, a lot of drones in there and stuff. It's really nice seeing these people, like these artists, going out and actually using their skills, moving beyond the band and going onto soundtracks because it fucking works. Some of the best scores for film come from people who are recognised as artists. Might not be the best film in the world for people to think, but Tron Legacy, for fuck's sake, that's one of the best soundtracks to me.
And like for this film, this is definitely one of the strongest elements is the soundtrack.
Easily.
One of the other strongest elements, I think, is also the look of the film.
It's incredible.
So just to go back to what I said earlier, Rob Hardy is indeed, the cinematographer is indeed British. And the way they use light, colour, and the landscape around them just gives you this amazing sense of scale when it's needed, this amazing sense of isolation when it's needed, and this amazing kind of, there's a wonder about the world.
Which goes into the wonder about the AI in the film.
Yeah, and sometimes they're shooting things to tell you something thematically about the film. Sometimes they're shooting things to tell you something emotionally about the film. And even the choice of like, it's a very small, subtle thing. Like you're talking about, there's this defined wall between inside and outside. It's so defined because one, inside color is totally different. Everything's very white, everything's very clean, everything's very like classically futuristic. And then outside you've got these like big booming sort of colors that come washing up. And then they even make that into a plot point when they're talking about the robot who goes outside and like sees the blue sky for the first time after living in like this world of black and white.
See how she looks up and she's smiling.
Yeah.
The director's done great. He's done amazing.
Amazing, yeah. I'm like, even though I'm not wholly hot on this, I really want to see what he does next.
There's a scene, just before we do it, there's a scene where it cuts off between Domhnall Gleeson and Ava, and they're facing each other that shows that they're equal, again, to emphasise the fact that, is she human? Yeah. I think it's incredible. He's done an incredible job.
So yeah, hats off to you. I am actually going to, personally, I'm going to watch this a few more times at some point and see if I can finally, get it. So people love this film. Yeah. And I can totally see why people love this film. I wish I loved it as much as most people do. So there is Ex Machina. You can let us know in the comments what you thought of the film, or you can hit us up on Twitter. The reason we said earlier, this is actually our last time as one more round. Next week is our 1 year anniversary.
52nd episode.
We've been together for 1 year.
52nd episode.
52nd episode.
So it's not the anniversary just yet.
No, that would be the anniversary. Oh no, 50, oh yeah, I apologise, you're right. It's not our anniversary, it's our 52nd episode, which is one full year of us doing Film Club. So we don't have a film next week. Instead, we've got something a little bit special planned. So you can come join us next week to celebrate 1 full year of Film Club, and then what is happening afterwards, we'll tell you next week. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. See you next week.